Well, the original idea, rather stupidly, was to do a condensed video about meditation, one single video, and it became clear that that isn't going to work because there's so much involved that it wouldn't fit into one 15-minute video. So it's possibly going to be a series of videos, this being the first one. And the first thing to clear up from the beginning on is the definition of meditation. Lots of people go into meditation, including myself, with a false idea of what meditation is or should be. And it has nothing to do with sitting cross-legged with your eyes closed, doing certain exercises, breathing or whatever else. Those things are all valid, maybe, but as far as I'm concerned, it's allowing yourself to become aware, which is a condition, a state of mind, or a state of being that should really be applied to the whole of your life. Your whole day should be a state of being aware. That might be difficult to do from the beginning on, and so you choose a time to choose to be focused and aware, or to focus on awareness, or defocus and become awareness, I suppose, would be another way of saying it. So meditation should not be something you do, but something you are. And that would be the same then as a state of enlightenment, to be in awareness, to be aware of the rest going on, but to be in awareness. It's because of this that we have these stories like the monk, before he becomes enlightened, eats his meal and cleans his bowl. But after enlightenment, he eats his meal and cleans his bowl, meaning the world and everything else stays the same. It's just your perspective that's changed. You now see it from the perspective of enlightenment, of awareness. So as far as I'm concerned, that's what meditation should be. It should be being in awareness, and you carry that from your meditation practice, where you do that intensively into your daily life, so that you can do it in your daily life intermittently and eventually all the time, the whole day. I'm going to be talking about three worlds that might confuse people. So there's the first world, the second world, and the third world, or states, if you like, doesn't matter. And I thought of an analogy, an image, to imagine those three worlds. The first world is the exterior world, and the world of actions and interactions with others and the environment. So you're living your life, doing your thing, getting up, making your coffee, going to work, and so on and so forth, and performing actions in the world and dealing with actions from others and events that are coming back. The second world is your internal world, so your neurology, your perceptions, your feelings. So the things that happen in the outside world get internalized. They are measured, I suppose, as data, and they're used to make predictions by your brain about how you will act in the next moments in the world again. And that's constantly updated, so you have a loop between the physical world that you're moving around in and the things that happen to you. The internalization of those things, predictions being made and then externalized into the world again. So in my image or analogy, it's like a football game. There's a player or players down on the field involved in the game, which is hectic and focused, and they have a certain perspective view over the game. They're reacting to direct involvement with themselves on the field. The second world then would be the supporters or spectators in the stands, who are able to sit back and watch the game from a different perspective, seeing that some of the mistakes that the player might have made, or things that they consider to be mistakes, why didn't he run there, why didn't he pass it to so-and-so, they have the advantage of that point of view, and can come to conclusions from that point of view. The players can't, because they don't have that perspective. They're down on the field. So that would be the second world, the mind watching the events going on down in the field and making decisions about what they saw or what it saw. Now, the player might be able to put himself sometimes in the perspective of the spectator and try and see the whole event going on. And the spectator might be able to put himself in the position of a player down on the field to be involved in the event going on. But they can't do that all the time, so you spend most of your day involved in those events as they happen, real time. And now and again you might be able to stand back, observe how a situation happened, and think about it, predict a different outcome, make a change to it, and so on. They're the two worlds that we're involved in most of the time. We're involved in our daily routines, our daily events, and when we're involved in taking time to sit back and reflect and think about new ways of dealing with situations. But maybe there's a third world perspective. The third world perspective would be the stadium. The stadium observes the whole thing, and there is nothing outside the stadium. The game and the spectators and the stadium is one entity. The stadium doesn't have to make predictions. It doesn't have to be actively involved in anything. Both of those positions, the first world, second world, are activity. Activity on the field, activity of the fans observing the game. Well, the stadium is just a stadium. And the events that are going on, the stadium isn't on the field. The stadium isn't in the stands. The stadium is the thing in which those events happen. So they are events in the stadium. So if you were to not focus from the first perspective of being a player in the game, not focus as being the spectator in the second world watching the game, but defocus into the state of the stadium, meaning to be aware that these events are happening within it, but not affecting it. And that's where the stillness comes in. The stadium is still and observes the events that come and go inside it. So a state of meditation would be to be in the third world, stillness, observing the events coming and going inside. That means the physical events in the world, the interactions between people and the environment, the thoughts and feelings that also come and go within the second world, so in your neurology, while the third world is always there. It doesn't come, it doesn't go, it's just there. And all of these things happen within it. Meditation then is the third world perspective, to rest in awareness. Enlightenment then is to, as that awareness, to realize, oh, all of these things in the first world and second world are events happening inside me. If I wasn't there, they would not exist. If you were not aware, none of the events in the outside world would make any difference. If you were not aware, none of the events in the second world, your thoughts and your feelings, would make any difference without awareness. And so awareness is the fundamental. It's the thing in which everything happens. So as you're sitting in meditation, you might be aware of the first world, you might be aware of the second world, but your fundamental state of awareness is the third world. And sitting in awareness, because you are detached from the happenings going on the field and in the stands, means you evolve or uncover a certain peace. You don't have to be active, you don't have to be involved, and so it becomes peaceful and quiet. Some would say happy, and some would say blissful. This would then be enlightenment, to be aware, oh, this is all an illusion, this is all first world, second world events, but that's not what I am. What I am is the stadium, the constant, the fundamental. That in itself could be really useful in practice, just to have that image in your head, just to remember or remind yourself of what yourself is. The third world, permanent, always there perspective of awareness. And so I'll explain in the next video how a simple meditation practice could be arranged around that very idea, or pretty much how I arrange my meditation practice. Although once you get used to a certain routine in your practice, you don't actively necessarily do that every time. I can quite happily just stop for a second or two or a minute and fall into awareness sometimes. I don't have to go through the process. But if you're starting out and you need some kind of system that brings you there, then that might be a good system to use, or something similar, a similar kind of system. It's giving you an idea of anyway of how to create a useful practice that gets you to where you want to be quickly. So click on the link to part 2 and we'll see how a meditation session could look like.